Yes. Hello, everybody. Oh, my mic. I have my mic in a totally wrong spot. Sorry, guys. You cannot hear me. Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. Welcome to our 29th episode of a Week Ahead News Show with me, Liam, and my friend Tommy.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me again, Liam. We got a great show today. I'm kind of hesitant to talk though today. What's been going on, with the government and First Amendment rights. I don't know. I might just sit here quietly today. No, I'm joking. We got a lot of topics today. About
We do.
First Amendment rights.
Can't wait.
And we will have a interesting show for y'all. So
It'll be
good to be
interesting, too,
back.
like how much they're flip flopping. People are probably already seeing that right now. But right now it is September
Absolutely.
22nd. We've had a crazy week. We've been doing these shows since March 10th, so kind of crazy now. We're getting a little over 6 months. So let's get it. Go right into weather. Today our high with this thunderstorm rain we've been getting, 81. So it's a little hot. Excuse me. Low is 61. Tomorrow's gonna be chillier, with still some light rain, 75, 60. Light wind Wednesday, 73, 60. Thursday will be light rain again, 73, 57. Friday light rain, 72, 54. It's really nice to get this long rain right after a drought. Definitely not gonna have like stormwater going crazy. So there'll probably be some flooding coming up here soon, minor flooding. Saturday will be sunny though, so that'll be nice right after that rain. High of what's that, 76, low of 53, partly cloudy Sunday as well. Sorry, Saturday is what I just told you. Sunday will be 73, 49. Next Monday, 75, 49. And let's go into real quick again. Let's see what the air quality's been good today at 41. We've been getting about half an inch of rain in the last 6 hours. One total inch expected in the next 24 hours. Really humid out. I noticed that going out for my walk today. 92% humidity. Dew points 64 degrees. My hair is going crazy. It feels hot, like some Florida humidity out there. The moon's in waxing crescent. Next full moon in 15 days. For sunrise, let's go. First light 6:43. Sunrise today was at 7:10. Sunset today 7:19. Last light 7:46 with about 12 hours and 8 minutes of total daylight. We're getting low over here about that, so that kind of sucks. But that's what happens in the fall. It's also the first day of fall. I don't know if you knew that, Tommy. You
It
see that?
is. Yep.
Yeah.
It,
Let's go.
it felt like it
What's the
with the
fancy
with the
names for
rain and
fall?
stuff.
Do you remember?
Autumn.
No, it's like
Yeah, they taught me that in
it's
law
not even
school.
autumn, Tommy. No, like it's like when they use even it's like two names. I forget, but I'll come
I don't
back
know.
with you.
Uh, yeah, maybe I have to pull out like my copy of Black's Law Dictionary or something. I'm sure there's some sort of bullshit Latin phrase that attorneys use to
I
describe
think.
fall.
Well, maybe I'm just thinking of like summer and winter solstices, but there's
Yeah.
nothing for fall on that. So at least in my head, maybe I'm
So maybe
confusing those.
maybe fall could be called like the reasonably foreseeable changing of the leaves. Maybe
That is pretty.
that's what I'm gonna call it. It's reasonably foreseeable that the leaves are gonna change about now.
Sounds like something Hemingway would
Uh,
write. So Tommy can go into stocks. We have weather below us again, if you want to look, and stocks for the day above us.
yeah, so stocks are looking good today. Dow up 406. Oh, excuse me. This is a recap of the last 5 days.
Yep.
So over the last 5 days, Dow's up 462 points. It's 1.01%. S&P 500, S&P 500, it's up 69.62 points. Nice, 1.05%. Nasdaq is up 391 points, 1.75% over the past 5 days.
Nice. In the green, small percent gains. We see for today, the Dow was about 4.14%, Nasdaq 0.7, US 200, 2000 0.6, S&P 500 0.44. So we're getting these small increment gains every day. That's pretty good. Excited to see that.
Good for
I think it will be
good for
interesting
people's
to see.
401ks out
It
there.
will. Good for 401k. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens when a lot of these tariffs truly get actually rolled out, because I don't know if a lot of people have been reading about it. I guess when the tariffs actually got totally rolled out, like a lot of these companies had surplus in America and they stocked even more. I mean, when Amazon has, a $30 Casio watch, there's more of that. There's more of them in America besides Amazon warehouses, and they
Yeah.
stockpile on them. So it's going to be a couple more months, but once their stockpiles go out, they get the new stuff in that was pricier. We'll be paying for it. So it'll be interesting to see how
And,
that affects stocks as well.
well, and also what also could affect stocks is the labor issues that are going to be forthcoming. With the inhumane treatment that the Trump administration has been dealing out to black and brown people, with their ICE agents, their Gestapo. Many industries they're going to be struggling to find employees and stuff like that. It's going to be a hard time going forward. We're just at the beginning of this mess.
It is, yeah. I think they're saying like we had we're having a really high unemployment and really low as people getting employment, actually high hiring numbers. So we'll have to see how that keeps
Yeah.
affecting the stock market. Before we go into our funny topic, make sure you drop a like if you're enjoying the content. I already see someone else did. Thank you for that. Also, in our description, we have a Facebook. Please follow us on there. If you want to share some of our social medias and our posts to help it get us out to everyone, they could join at any time while we're live for this hour, basically hour we do the show, and the same link they could watch the video on demand. You could also ring the bell to the bottom right of us. Personalize your notifications or have all. We mostly go live. It'll let you know. It'll also let you know 30 minutes before we go live, which is really nice. I do that for some shows I like, Young Turks. I do that, a new show I like to watch. And then I'm pretty sure that's it I was going to say about that. So I really appreciate if you could do that. Our funny topic is about Jon Stewart imagines this comedy in a dark new era because of what happened last week and description of Kimmel's suspension and what triggered it. Jon Stewart's decision to address the issue on The Daily Show as part of the late night's reaction. I really like Jon Stewart, and I kind of have like inspiration for this show just once a week. I'm not free enough to do it every night news show, but once a week news show is pretty good, as it's something that isn't paying my bills right now. So I like that. But I recommend watching it. I always watch him on YouTube. Look him up on YouTube, just for Daily Show. It'll be on there. And it's really cool too, because like they always do their segments on YouTube, like pretty much for next morning. They're pretty quick with it. Stewart's satirical response though used exaggerated, obedient, and oh god, what's that second word, Tommy?
Let me look what page you on. Obedient and sycophantic.
Sycophantic. Thank you, Tommy. I learned a word today. I don't
Yeah.
read books too much. I tell you what. Tone. Parroting praise of Trump and government compliance to highlight concerns about suppression of critique of one of his colleagues as well. It's also interesting how if you watch it, I'm pretty sure like he starts it off with like government compliance show, and it has like eagles and like military fighter jets and stuff. It's very like authoritarian. It's supposed to mock a lot of like North Korean, Chinese shows, Russian shows that are
Yeah.
just propaganda machines, and sometimes just over the top craziness. So I thought that was really funny. The elements set design tone uh, and dialogue intended to mock what is seen as over deference or fear mongering media, broadcast and broadcasters of political repercussions as well. People like Jimmy Kimmel, which we'll be talking about here up in a little bit, and even that's changing today, which we'll be talking about in a little bit, which I like that. And that's kind of a funny thing to see too. Broader free speech implications. The case is a test of free speech norms. What happens when political figures or government regulatory agencies push back on media's criticism? For role for FCC and affiliates, whether their actions constitute indirect censorship or influence, which is interesting. Like I've been seeing some people on the right talking about, when the left went after people for racism, is this really the same thing? And they're saying, it's really not, to me at least personally. Totally different things, and I don't feel like that's really fair to compare them, and really kind of it's different as well. Where like the head of FCC was on a podcast before Kimmel's show, and like I think it was last week, and he was already talking about how like they were gonna fine him and implicate him, and Trump talked a lot about it too. Where he was like, "Well, all these late night show guys, they're liberal and they hate me," and it's just like it's scary because America is free speech, number one, like back. That's what everyone loves. You know, a lot of people like to use that to say horrible things online and be horrible people. But one thing about free speech is that you get to hear it all, um, and especially with comedians as well. And it's something that Johnny Carson. I think even Jon Stewart was talking about this. Johnny Carson, or maybe someone like MSNBC, was on air for 30 years. There were 7 different presidencies Johnny Carson went through. He had Richard Nixon on the show and made fun of Richard Nixon to his face. And did even someone as Tricky Dick Nixon, he didn't act like Trump and got butthurt and tried to freaking have the FCC go after him after that. Like, people were just gentlemen back then, and they understood good jokes. So, like, it's crazy to me that, like, even as someone as corrupt and as bad as Richard Nixon, like, was fine with taking a joke on the face like that. So it's crazy. A chilling effect concerns that hosts, news outlets, and media companies might self-censor to avoid controversy or regulatory pressure. Impacts on comedic commentary, political satire, and investigative journalism. Especially how Trump is, and we've seen now with South Park, with them making fun of Trump, and we've talked about before with like his all-white Fox News room of reporters. It's, and what I talked a little bit before about like China and North Korea, like a lot of people are saying we're getting to that for authoritarian state. Part of that is limiting free speech, and we've seen it throughout other countries time and time again. Something that, like with Nepal, that happened with the overthrow, they tried to limit social media because they knew that they were using that to communicate and spread this crazy shit online. And that backfired on them because it even made them more mad. And that's kind of what started the whole riots in the streets and grabbing literally political people out of their houses. So, I mean, you really have to be careful about, especially in America, to me, free speech. And just the fact that, you're hurt about what he's saying. And it's just crazy. If you watch what Jimmy Kimmel said, it wasn't even that bad either. Like, he started off by saying, he feels for his wife and kids and that his family's praying for him. And he doesn't want that either. He was just going after the right for immediately assuming it was someone on the left, pretty much. Patrick and Warren, Stewart, and others warn that this might be a precedent setting, that lines around permissible criticisms could shift under political pressure. I'm hoping that does change. And like we'll talk about, basically what ended up happening is Kimmel was back. It was a short suspension. Most people probably already saw that today. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but it's, to me, it kind of shows that maybe it wasn't as harsh as we thought, and it kind of shows that like they don't really communicate that either. But even, we'll talk more about it later, like people on the right were saying that he was canceled when this happened. They took it as a win, and the fact that not even like 6 days later he's back. Allegations that the suspensions was less about ABC's internal policy and more about avoiding conflict of regulatory or political forces. Also, I thought I saw something about a merger happening. So you know how money be and how companies be. They don't want to stop mergers happening. This has happened before with CBS, I believe, and Colbert, wasn't it? Yeah, so other late night host, Stephen Colbert, because he doesn't care because he's out here soon after the season. Seth Meyers and Jimmy Fallon also speaking out. Seth Meyers is probably one of my favorite, but I pretty much like them all. Affiliates, pulling the show, public response, commentary, free speech advocates, and media critics at Disney's ABC's decision to bring back the show after internal decisions, and what that suggests about negotiating space for speech within corporate media under pressure. I saw something from my sister that I think they lost like $8 billion or something from people getting rid of their streams. It may have been million. But make sure you look it up because there were some people boycotting them. I think it'll be interesting to see if the right gets really butthurt and tries to boycott them back, and then see like what the difference is. I don't know how companies go. Yeah. If they're just going to keep going back and forth and just losing less and less money, I have no idea. I think it's interesting to see what this means for like future political commentary, whether comedians and journalists feel safe to critique political power, especially in like volatile moments. Long-term implications for regulation of free speech, media, FCC, authority, corporate decisions to avoid risk. I think it's interesting too because like how social media is now, it's just different too from even the Iraq War. But like even the Iraq War, they weren't cutting, trying to find people and say we'll get your license taken away if you talk about, George Bush. The balance between free expression and responsibilities of broadcasters when satire and criticism crosses lines in public perception, and how it interacts with political influence. Um, and I kind of gave like a lot of my input. What's your input on this one, Tom?
Yeah, so to me, this all just comes down to the one single question. What kind of country do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a country, that values, freedom of expression, the robust exchange of ideas, or are we comfortable living in a country where an authoritarian despot, our current president, is just essentially, running around, firing at the hip, illegally, in my opinion, suppressing speech. Um, you know, I think us as Americans, we're faced here with a binary choice here. Are we going to continue down the path of stoking the very small ego of a man who has no perception of the world or of public policy or even basic human decency, quite frankly, or are we going to live in a world in a country, where, we work towards, both gradual and systematic progress.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to do any of those things. It's hard to, fight for progress. It's hard to fight for advancement, fight for people's rights when we cannot freely go out there and talk about, what we believe, not only as, liberals, but also just as like American citizens. So,
Yeah.
and the Trump regime, is just, they're so inept. They truly are so stupid and evil that they don't see this. They don't sort of see that these sorts of protections, the late night hosts, from late night hosts to protesters on the streets, those are core sort of fundamental rights that are essential to our free society. But like any sort of fundamental right, it's currently under attack by the Trump administration as they attempt to repeatedly, try to push away the guardrails that held our democratic nation together for so long, and hopefully, we'll live past these dark days of the Trump administration. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, I choose, a country, where I'm free to be an asshole online, you know, and
Oh yeah.
I'm free to, be, you go out there and uh, go out there and peacefully but assertively express my political opinions, which I've been doing for the past 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's just crazy to see, where we're
Mm-hmm.
at right now as a nation. You're turning more specifically to, Jon Stewart. I saw little bits of the episode, and that sort of, it's comedic in the respect of, Jon Stewart's a funny guy. He's a funny guy. The whole tone of the show was funny, but it's also very, very scary.
Yeah. The
That
undertones
that's
are
sort
yeah.
of the yeah, like it's funny, but it's also scary that that's where we could be
Mm-hmm.
in not so much of a distant future. And
Yeah.
it's also important to keep in mind too that free speech is non-interference with free speech is so important because when people unlawfully interfere with free speech, that very well may be unlawful, but it produces a chilling effect. If people have to sue to assert their rights to free speech, that in itself is an impediment to people's constitutional rights. So, this is just all bad. you know,
Agreed. Yeah.
um, you know, um, Trump's an asshole. He doesn't understand the First Amendment to the United States Constitution because his ego, his very, very small ego, and his brain won't let him do that. So
Yeah. Agreed. And a lot of it's interesting because like I've talked about before, I think even last week with Bud Dwyer, it would have been like if They went after a band because a band made a song about it. Basically, a Pennsylvania politician killing himself. It would have been like if they went after that and like didn't allow that to be played and like didn't allow that to be distributed. And it's like
Right.
there's one things that make America America, and that's the freedoms we have in our Constitution, and you have to stay true to them.
E- Exactly. And, for better or for worse, hate speech, there's no such thing as really hate speech in constitutional law. Like, again, I'm not an attorney. I'm just speaking about a relevant national political issue. Hate speech is not really a thing in law. Um, for better or for worse. So a lot of these things, that people online are talking about, this is controversial. People shouldn't say this. Me as someone, again, who's not an attorney but has a certificate of constitutional law as well, that's just core political speech. It doesn't really matter if people find it offensive or distasteful. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyway,
No,
that's
agreed.
sort of my comments on it.
And it's like Tommy saying like a lot of like some of it too is like growing up online, like Call of Duty lobbies and just seeing Twitter and just how bad this certain people are to their free speech. Like this, a lot of
Yeah.
comedians to do comedian stuff, and it's interesting. Like I said earlier with Trump's comment, that it's all leftists. Like that is interesting. There's probably a reason for that. Like go deeper about it. You know what I mean? Like for right, do they watch that? I don't know. You know what I mean? They might just be watching Fox News all night. So like I don't know if it's hard for them to watch late night comedy anyway. So there's more to that, and like this will play in a lot to a national one topic. So I'll just kind of go into that, which is the same
Yeah,
thing
for
pretty
sure.
much about Jimmy Kimmel. He's returning on air after Tuesday. So tomorrow he'll be returning on air after suspension, which was last Wednesday, following a controversial monologue. So he was basically out for a week. About the assassination of Charlie Kirk for comments, including Kimmel's accusing many in Magaland of trying to politicize or distance the alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson's political beliefs in order to score political points. The reason for the suspension and fallout, like we said, the network and the suspension would avoid further inflaming tensions after emotional national events. But I personally feel like, that's what they say. It's all about the money in the end. And that's kind of why they brought him back, too, because people were boycotting and wanted to bring the money back. Several ABC affiliate station owners, notably Nexstar and Sinclair, pulled the show from their lineups. And I'm pretty sure Nexstar said like they still are gonna pull it, and just show a news station I
Yeah.
saw, and it's like 63 channels. FCC Chairman Brandon
And those
Carl.
are
Mm-hmm.
and those Nexstar and that Sinclair, that's a big conglomerate of local media and they're just crazy right wing. Like they're just buy up all the local media and boom, Fox News. It's bullshit. So this
Yeah.
is not surprising. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to provide some context.
Oh, you're good. And it's interesting to me to seeing with streaming becoming more popular how valuable local media might be to these guys. They might not care as much anymore. They might shop around, or they might have their own solution nowadays. You know what I mean? Oh, we can't get to the local stations, but we could just stream to the local station and then stream to them, or have another way of doing it. A lot of
Yeah.
people are watching online like me, so. FCC Chairman Brandon Carr, like I said, issued warnings about potential regulatory consequences, saying broadcasters need to be mindful of their content, particularly in situations charged with public interest. Unless you're Fox News, you could talk about euthanizing homeless people, and you won't get in trouble for that. So there's that's crazy to me because there's a bunch of crazy stuff that all these people say. All these news stations say Newsmax. I mean, just watch Newsmax for a bit, your brain will rot. After several days and conversations between Disney execs and Kimmel, Jimmy Kimmel Live is returning tomorrow. Decision was made internally of Disney, saying it was driven by the best interests of a company rather than external pressure from affiliates or regulators.
Bullshit.
I know, and that's crazy. But no, I mean that's probably true. You know what I mean? They said, well, we're losing all that money. You know what I mean? But I don't know. We'll see. If they're gonna flip flop, that's interesting to me. You know what I mean? Um, but
Yeah.
like a lot of HR, a lot of like people that are good with HR. Like they say, like even like for hardest HRs and PR events last like a week. So like it's been a week. Or do they just want to bring him back because now no one cares on Riverside? I don't know. Um, but it is good to see. But like I said, I think a lot of it's money, so we'll have to see. Reactions and
Yeah.
broader implications. Support and backlash. Many in entertainment and free speech circles criticize suspension, so they're happy about it back. Organization, organizations like for Writers Guild, Screen Actors Guild, etc. weighed in. Free speech and regulatory tension. The case spotlights debates over media regulation. FCC authority, because the FCC won't let me be or let me be me. Political influence over content and the First Amendment. ABC affiliates, like we said, continued preempting the show, setting community standards and show content, which is crazy because, like, once again, we've seen a while too. You could see time and time again videos, people like J.D. Vance, Ted Cruz, a lot of people on the right saying that we were just like so far, like so close from this losing free speech because the left was in power. But now that the right's in power, they're just fine with going free speech. And like I say time and time again on the show, like you never want to set precedent or basically like give your opponents power that you wouldn't want because you can't be in power forever in government. So you don't want to mess it up, act crazy, because then someone else can come in and mess it up and act crazy. So you always gotta be smart about that. What's still unclear though and outstanding whether Kimmel will address the suspension and his monologue directly in a comeback episode tomorrow. That'll be interesting to see. I'll probably watch it actually. Whether all affiliate stations had dropped the show and will carry it again. Like see which ones stay, which ones go. Um, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, ABC, you could watch that streaming, so we'll be alright. What, if any, long term changes or oversight for network broadcasters were put in place regarding contents and regulatory risk? If they have to go through more lawyers, if they have to go through training, if Jimmy Kimmel had to go through some sensitivity training or whatever we call that about this, that would be kind of funny, like for rights version of like DEI training for them, I guess. I don't know. That'd be interesting. Any other input before we go to our first local topic one, Tommy? Keep it rolling.
No, a lot of my input from the previous topic applies here. I'm glad that Jimmy Kimmel's on air. What we're seeing is atrocious. Seeing, I'm glad he's on the air. Not only what ABC did, pulling Kimmel from the air, but also just the what I would say is illegal pressure from the FCC. Those sorts of actions. I'm just glad that he's back on the air because that's what I think the Constitution demands.
Yeah.
Like I don't think the FCC can be
Hold on to
I don't
that.
think the FCC can be pursuing political opponents for the Trump administration, consistent with the First Amendment. So
Yeah.
hopefully sanity will play out. He's back on the air. Some good news.
Very good news.
And yeah, that's really all I have to say.
Yep. I'm excited to watch it again. We don't need that type of overreach from the government. That's just not right. And it is something that like
Yeah.
that it's something that doesn't affect our lives a whole lot, but it sets precedent that we don't want. And time and time again in history, when the educated people about this are freaking out about it, you might want to be like, okay, maybe they're right. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this. But if you're good, Tommy, you can go into a local topic one.
Yeah. This is another attack on free speech by a local official. So this happened in the Ashland County Fair in Ohio. So in Ashland County, the local Democratic Party had a booth. And what happened? So the Democratic booth, they were selling buttons referencing President Trump. Some of the buttons contained messages that fairgoers and the sheriffs considered potentially threatening. Some examples of the button: a red ball cap with the word felon written across it, aka core political speech. One saying, "Is he dead yet?" referring to the president, aka core political speech. A button referring to an obituary, innuendo about Trump, aka core political speech. 8647 reportedly means the removal of the president, who's the 47th president of the United States, aka core political speech. Okay, so
That's crazy.
These buttons were visible in the booth. So the sheriff, stated that the buttons broke fair rules. Fair officials asked the Democratic booth to put away those specific buttons, but the complaints continued, and eventually law enforcement eventually escorted the Democratic Party out of the fair. Schinder, the sheriff, who I'm pretty sure is a hick sheriff, who doesn't understand anything about the law or the First Amendment,
It might be Snyder.
reported the Snyder, yeah. I don't really care enough to say his name, to be honest with you. Um, this guy's a law enforcement agent, just portray.
True.
He's a thug portraying as a law enforcement agent.
True.
Um, so he reported the incident to the U.S. Secret Service. So, AKA, he recorded core political speech to the U.S. Secret Service.
That's
Um,
crazy.
he stated his office is looking into any whether criminal charges are possible on the basis that the buttons may constitute threats. They're not threats. They're core political speech. Anyway, opinions and reactions. So opinions from fairgoers. Dan Kaufman called the button shameful. Again, I don't really care what Dan Kaufman says. I don't really care how other people react to core political speech.
Yeah.
Core political speech is allowed to be offensive. Okay, so Dan Kaufman can kiss my ass. I don't care, that he thinks that these are shameful, whatever. Your opinion is completely irrelevant. What is important here is the United States Constitution.
Yeah.
Um, State Senator Bill DeMora defended the Democratic Party, calling the sheriff's actions censorship and a violation of the First Amendment right to free speech. Congratulations, Senator DeMora. This was the right take. DeMora said that putting an opinion on a button that you disagree with the president and that you want him removed is not threatening or illegal, which it absolutely is not threatening or illegal.
Yeah, real quick, Tommy.
From neighboring.
When Biden announced he had prostate cancer, that means that the Secret Service would have had to went on all social media and all Republicans were asking, "Is he dead yet?" or making jokes and take that as threats, and they didn't do that because it's not a threat. That's I don't know.
Right.
That's crazy to me.
I'm not even gonna I could give you examples of true threats.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say that on a live show because we're moving into an authoritarian state. But these are not true threats.
A true threat would be a button saying "Go kill President Trump."
Yeah,
that would be a threat. Or I want to kill President Trump on a button, and I don't want to do that. I don't want that on a button, but that's a threat.
Right, that's wrong. That could be. Again, this is not legal, but I'm just commenting on a relevant national issue. That could be penalized.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is not a threat. It's just not. I'm sorry. So, again, I'll go back. So opinions and react from neighboring vendors. Again, this doesn't really matter. Okay.
Well, one reason we have to realize too, it's Ashland, so it's a very conservative county. I've been out there before.
I'm sorry. What did you say? You cut out a little bit.
Oh, you're good. Since it's Ashland, we do have to realize it is a very conservative county. So a lot of these people, I bet, are all conservatives.
Yeah. So, but the point I'm trying to make is, from neighboring vendors, the article they talk about, some expressed relief that the booth was closed. Other mentioned people should be free to express opinions. It doesn't really matter that the booth next to the Democratic Party booth doesn't like their buttons.
True.
Why are we asking other people if they find this message offensive? It really is completely irrelevant in a legal aspect. So, again, possible clash between political expression was considered threatening speech. It's just crazy. It says in the article that they're consulting their attorney. The sheriff's saying they're going to keep the public updated on the next steps. And there's been no decision left on
So if they're going to charge these people. If I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, this was fairly recent. Yeah, and this is just totally out of bounds and totally wrong. And I think our founding fathers would be disgusted with the Republican Party right now. Okay, I don't understand how this sheriff can put his hand on a Bible and swear that he's going to protect the United States Constitution, and then this sheriff's going to do this. No. Again, I would say really mean things about this shit. But here's the deal. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution was designed to protect all political speech, and to protect all speech, and at the core of the First Amendment is political speech. Political speech does not have to be pointed top line talking points. It can be anything from burning the American flag. It could be the stuff that's on a political button like this. There is a lot of examples of core political speech that an average, even a reasonable person would find offensive, and it doesn't matter. Now, again, there's another conversation. Is this a smart thing to do? Right after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, that is another conversation that we can have. But it also doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
If the Westboro Baptist Church has a constitutional right to protest outside the funerals of soldiers, you could say these things on these buttons. At least, again, not legal advice. I'm commenting on a political issue, but it's just crazy.
Examples, yeah.
It's just crazy. Shame on this sheriff. Shame on this sheriff. It's disgusting. And I think he should go buy a pocket constitution and read it if he knows how to read. Anyway, so that's all I have on that.
Yeah, I agree a lot, Tommy. I was happy to get my point a little bit there. But yeah, I think it's kind of messed up. Freedom of speech kind of shows that, like, I don't know, with everything going on right now, I feel like a lot of these conservatives just feel like in power, so you kind of have to be careful as a liberal. You know what I mean? So like you were saying, was it the smartest thing to do when you know that they're on a power trip? I don't know. You have to right now, especially after this, we have to be like, okay, we need to be careful because, like, my opinion, just going back to the actual buttons themselves, like, I feel like half of these are just not even bad. Like, felon is not bad. 87, 86, 47, just removing him, not killing him, just removing him. So like those two, like half of it isn't even about death, and they're like, it's a threat. It's like, well, he is a felon, and they're like, that's a threat. It's like, Jesus Christ, like,
it's a fact. It's a fact.
Exactly. It's a fact. I'm sorry it really hurt your feelings, but it is a fact. So that's really it for me. Or I can go into our national news topic 2 for the day. Make sure you drop a like if you're enjoying the content. Any other
nope
input?
I'm all good. I got my rant out of my system.
Heck,
I'm good.
yeah. We got another rant coming with Congress locked in the game of shutout chicken as for funding deadline nears. For deadline, federal funding runs out on September 30th, end of this month. That is when the current continuing resolutions expire and the next fiscal year starts on October 1st. What's at stake? Without agreement, many federal agencies and programs will face partial shutdown. Non-essential employees could go furloughed. Essential workers would continue, or essential services. I'm guessing that's probably ICE, so it really sucks. I was hoping like maybe ICE would get shut down too, but they're probably making them a freaking essential service and no one else. Just highlighted concerns over healthcare programs, including tax credits under the Affordable Care Act, ACA, and Medicaid, which Democrats want preserved or expanded. Legislative moves and negotiations, stopgap spending bills for continuing resolutions or CRs. The House GOP passed a version of a clean CR, i.e. extension of a current funding without many new provisions through November 21st. The Senate rejected the House bill. It also rejected a Democrat counter-proposal. That's interesting that a Republican-controlled Senate can't agree with their House. Key sticking points. Democrats want health care provisions included, especially extending ACA subsidies like spoken about, reversing Medicaid cuts, preserving or restoring funding for certain programs. Republicans are pushing for a cleaner CR without those provisions. They view many Democrat demands as non-negotiable items that could complicate or inflate the cost of the bill. It's also interesting that like those Medicaid cuts aren't taking place until after the midterm elections, so that's something that they did because they knew that they would probably get smoked in the midterms. They probably still will if we can get that word out. That it's like a month and a half after the midterms, those Medicaid cuts come in. So do not vote red if you really care about that. Vote blue because they won't keep it. Once they realize they can cut it anytime government takes away something and they realize that people don't care that they took that benefit away, they're going to be just fine with keeping it that way. Um, Republicans, oh, I already said that, sorry. Political pressure and strategy. Senate Majority Leader John, how do you say the last name? Tuan?
Uh, Let me see. John Thune, the
Thune.
new leader. He's an asshole.
And
Yeah.
House Speaker Mike Johnson have made clear that they want something passed before the deadline arrives. Democrats are pushing for a direct meeting with President Donald Trump to negotiate terms. Levy Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, Senate and House Democrat leaders, are involved. Is Levi Schumer Chuck Schumer's son? Never heard of Levi Schumer in my life.
I think that's Chuck. I think that's Chuck Schumer. I think it's a typo.
Oh, okay. Congressional schedule in recess. Both the House and Senate are in recess for Rosh. Oh God, Rosh Hashanah. Did I say it right? I think I said it right.
Yep.
Which creates tight timing concerns. The House is expected to return on or after September 29th, very close to or about the deadline, which I'm very not surprised. They like being lazy. Votes and outcomes. The House passed for GOP CR. The votes was a narrow 217 to 212. One Democrat joined in support. Some Republicans opposed. Senate vote. The Senate failed to advance the House bill, failed to reach the 60 votes needed to avoid filibuster. Also rejected the Democrats' alternative, like spoken about before, because of health care provisions. And Republicans hate Medicaid, they hate Medicare. They voted to cut it, and they definitely don't want to give us any more. Risk and implications. Shutdown risk increases. As of now, with no bipartisan agreement, the possibility of government shutdown on October 1st is high. Just in time for Halloween. Political and public blame game. Both parties are positioning for blame the other if a shutdown happens. GOP leaders argue Democrats are holding up funding due to demands, and Democrats argue Republicans are unwilling to negotiate on key priorities. This is something that kind of happens in every freaking presidency nowadays, and it's just because that like a lot of the House and Senate's so tight nowadays, and it's been for a while, even with control. You have some flip flops on each side. You know, if you just get some flip flop people, that will really screw you over. So I'm really tired of this always happening. Effects on government operations. Like we said, non-essential workers may be furloughed. Agencies will cut back on anything considered non-urgent. Potential delays and increases on healthcare costs or disruptions if ACA subsidies lapse or Medicare cuts are not addressed. That's something that I'm kind of giving my input on. I'm just tired of the government always having issues with this spending. And right now, I really do think Democrats should be giving them a harder time with all the money going to ICE and them just wanting to cut, the ACA more and more up. And it's like we really need to actually be providing for people more, especially since we know that, economy's not doing well, jobs aren't doing well. We might be going into a recession with houses and stuff like that. You never know. It's scary. So it's just dumb to me. It's sad that with a Republican as president, Republican controlled Senate, Republican controlled House, narrowly on some of them, that they could still not just get crap done. It blows my mind. Like people never learn. It happened the first time for Trump's presidency, and we got blessed by. It's kind of sad to say blessed, but we got very lucky that John McCain voted no on Trump's health care bill. And like I've talked about before, all it takes is a Republican getting cancer until they care about health care, but that's literally what happened to John McCain. Look it up. So, it's crazy. That's my input on it. We need to stop funding
Yep.
ICE so
I
much and fund healthcare. It's freaking crazy. And FEMA, because FEMA's getting no money. All these dams are just going to get screwed over time. And we kind of need to fix them fast. Cities don't got money for it.
you know, I got two things to say about this. So, first off, welcome to the potential Republican shutdown. Republicans, they control the presidency, they control both houses of Congress, and they absolutely control the Supreme Court of the United States. It's crazy, So the Republicans, they control the branches of government, and now they're going to try to claim that this is a Democratic-led shutdown when the Democratic Party is quite simply just taking a stand for people on, Medicare, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, etc. No, this is a Republican caused shutdown. And the Democratic Party, the Senate Democrats, are just simply holding the line against these sort of authoritarian actions, these
And
sorts
Tommy,
of
it's
bad
crazy. Like
spending
like
cuts.
they have a party of for alpha male, but when they're in power, they just blame everyone else. It's
Yeah,
it's sad.
you know, it-
It's
they they
crazy.
they hold all three. It is absolutely crazy, and you see similar things, with everything they do. Like they spent the last 4 years calling liberals snowflakes, and they pulled Jimmy Kimmel off the. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, in many respects, they're the party of hypocrisy. So, but the fact remains that they remain in charge. They have all three branches of government, and if the government shuts down, they own it simply by the fact that they're in charge. Okay. The second thing I want to say is I'm a guy that thought that the Senate Democrats should have took a harder line in the first budget. I think that's what our base wanted, and I think we need to listen to our base. So I'm very proud of Senate Democrats right now. They're drawing a line in the sand here. They're saying, we're not going to support any sort of continuing resolution that um, goes that defunds that hurts poor working families' health care. And I think that's absolutely the reasonable thing to do. Why should the Democratic Party um, you know, help fund a government that is going to hurt the people that elected the Democrats to office.
Hmm.
Again, and that can be true as well as this is a Republican shutdown. And that can be true again because we're not in power. Our job as, a job being in the minority is to advocate, for the positions that, that we hold. And it's also to, make incremental change, incremental positive changes in legislation that is being pushed forward by the majority, in this case, the Republicans in the Congress.
Yeah.
So this bill, this continuing resolution, it does not advance the interests of the United States. It hurts working families. It hurts people's health care. And I'm very happy that Senate Democrats are drawing a line in the sand saying we're not going to contribute to this. Republicans, they own this. They have all branches of government.
Hmm.
And they got to figure it out. And we're not going to help you rip off Americans. So
And
I'm
what's
very
sad
happy to
is,
see this is how this is progressing. And
hmm,
yeah,
it's crazy to me because, I mean, Trump's been in power for 8 months, 8 months, and he hasn't done
yeah.
anything
I don't like
besides
to think about it.
tariffs and ice. Like think about it, like nothing.
Yeah,
And like the tariffs was a ploy so he can get money. I mean, Steve Jobs literally gave. I'm sorry, not Steve Jobs has passed. Tim Cook. Sorry, like acting like Trump, but Tim Cook literally gave him a gold bar, and the next day he removed the tariffs on Apple products. Crazy. So like, it's been
yeah,
8 months. They haven't gotten infrastructure passed. They haven't gotten healthcare passed. This has same thing that happened in Trump's first term. And people need to realize that. Like, it doesn't take months to pass these things. And Trump could say, well, I want to go on immigrants now. This is a now problem. If they tell you that, realize that they're trying to outsmart you. And say, buddy, if you pass a healthcare bill, if you pass an infrastructure bill, that's something that takes years to implement as well. It's not as easy as, putting someone in jail, waiting to deport them. Like, it takes years too. So a lot of people would say maybe you have to do stuff in place first and then go after that if that's what you want, Trump. But like, you're showing that like you want the easy solutions fixed first, and you're just gonna take bribes and not care about actually passing real things that help people. You're gonna scam the American people again. And like me and Tommy were talking about, like it's scary that. And I would love to debate Trumpies on this. Is this like that? They're like, oh well, he would never be a dictator. And it's like, well, buddy, we have video of him talking about it, and we have a lot of video of Trump supporters saying they're fine with it. You might not say that, but if half your supporters think that, you need to realize we're still in an issue here, and we just can't get to that point. And there's a reason why, like everyone's fine with that on that side, or people are fine with it. You should never love a politician so much that you would want him to become a dictator. That's another thing that like our founding fathers would be rolling in their graves over, and probably are. But that's it for me on this topic. Are you good, Tom? You got a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I'm good. It's just crazy. Like I said, I'm very proud of Senate Democrats fighting the good fight, and
Yeah.
Republicans got to fix this mess. So,
Agreed.
you ready to move on to our next topic,
Yep, our
our last
last
topic?
topic for the night.
I'll
Nice and
do that.
quick.
So this will be a quick one, but it's an important one, and I think I could provide some context. So Jim Trussell won't run for Ohio governor in 2026. It's both a good and a bad thing. Um, Jim Trussell, Lieutenant Governor of Ohio, former Ohio State football coach, has announced he will not run for governor in 2026. He made the announcement on Twitter, stating that the decision came out of considerable thought and prayer, which that kind of annoys me. Every single Republican politician, every time they decide to do anything, they have to say after considerable thought and prayer. It's like I don't know. It just drives me crazy.
I know.
Trussell says he'll use the remainder of his current term focusing on education and workforce issues. And he expressed an appreciation for his role. Saying it's been an extraordinary honor of a lifetime to serve along Governor Mike DeWine, who doesn't have a spine.
Nope.
So, anyway,
Spineless
so
DeWine.
with Trussell out, the Republican primary for governor becomes less contested.
I see. Yeah.
Um, it seems like they're clearing the way for Vivek Ramaswamy. Biotech swindler. Who ran for president. He's so just crazy. So
And you know what's crazy too?
why I
What's
wanted to
crazier,
talk about
Tommy, real quick? I never knew
yeah.
that like you could pray and like you just envision for data that you're just not gonna win, and you go, "Oh yeah, I'm not gonna win." Like you pray and you envision the conversation you had with your campaign manager saying, "Hey buddy, this is a waste," and you go, "Oh yeah, he was right." Like I never knew
Yeah.
that. That is crazy. Just pray you get your
Yeah,
email
it's like God.
inbox with all the data saying you're about to get dogged on, loss of funding.
Yeah, maybe Jim Trussell got an email like jesus@gmail.com, like with all of the different insider polling information that he would need to make a decision like this. That's probably
And the political funding, how much Vivek has been getting versus everyone else. Yeah, crazy. I didn't know
it's
that.
it's it's definitely not that the chair of the Ohio Republican Party was making phone calls.
Maybe he was
I
praying,
don't know
Tommy.
any
I wasn't there. I wouldn't
like
know.
let me be very clear. I don't know anything. I don't know any insider information about this. I'm just speculating. Um, you know,
It makes
so
sense.
what's so crazy about this is so I don't like Jim Trussell. Okay, but Jim Trussell is not Vivek Ramaswamy. Okay, Vivek Ramaswamy is fucking crazy. Like he's a scary dude. Okay, like I don't think Vivek Ramaswamy, should be anywhere near any sort of power. I think he's a dangerous guy. I think he, is unhinged, and I think he'll bring, Donald Trump to our state government. And in many respects, let me be very clear: Donald Trump is our state government. So with Jim Trussell, getting out of the way, that increases the likelihood, of a Ramaswamy, win. Now, maybe potentially, Ramaswamy would be easier to beat than Jim Trussell in a general election.
Yeah, it doesn't
You know,
split the
you
votes
you
either,
could
right?
you could make that argument, that Ramaswamy is just so bad, that that he makes him an easier to beat candidate, but it also carries the risk of, hey, this crazy asshole could get elected still. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
maybe he's easier to beat, but that also means he can get elected, because he's going to probably be on the ticket. And it's going to be interesting to see the gubernatorial race in 2026.
Mhm.
The Amy Acton has announced her candidacy. She's been campaigning. Other people may jump in that race. And it's going to be interesting to see the potential fight. And it's either going to be it's likely going to be Ramaswamy, because David Yost suspended his campaign a couple months ago. So he's cleared out. Jim Trussell, who's really, I think, the last serious sort of like contender, he's out. Just Ramaswamy now. God help us all. Maybe easier to beat, but definitely much more dangerous than Jim Trussell. And here we are. We're off to the races. Let's hope that Ramaswamy does not go anywhere near the governor's mansion, because oh my God, probably on his first day, just like Trump, he'd have a big flagpole out there and it'd be all gold on the inside. We cannot have that, people.
No.
Okay, so yep, keep an eye out on this race. As things progress in the gubernatorial race. So, yep, that's all I have to say on this. Do you have anything else to add, Liam?
To me, it would be crazy, and it's probably what's going to happen. But like having someone that like is not associated with Ohio at all, being Ohio's governor, and it's like, what the heck
Yeah.
is going on? Like, and sometimes it won't matter. But like Vivek's, he's not political. He hasn't been political, so I don't know. He hasn't done anything serious in his life besides make money, and like we can't keep doing this. Oh, people made money doing very specific things. They'll do very well in the government. No, they did very well in those specific things. That's why they made money doing it. Doesn't mean they'll be good with government. Someone that's like just like with Trump. Trump's good with real estate, I guess. Doesn't mean he should be president. You know what I mean? Maybe he should be a recorder. You know what I mean? He's good with real estate. He'll know if someone's scamming. But that's not the type of guy he was. So it's interesting.
In many respects, Liam, I agree completely with what you say. The purpose of a company is to make a profit and provide value to their shareholders. The purpose of government is to provide services to its citizens. Those are two very different things. You know what I mean? And but for some reason people like to pretend that good businessmen, make good statesmen. But it's two different separate fields. One's about making money. One's about providing services. So,
agreed. And a lot of services besides just one. Most businesses just provide a service, not multiple, in different areas and all over the country. That's a problem that makes a lot of times the federal government so hard. And you know what I mean?
The government. And the government's not a for-profit enterprise either.
Yeah.
Not yet. Not yet.
They're trying.
We might get there in
Trump
3.5 years.
He's making a lot of money. A lot of our politicians. Yeah. So that's it for us tonight, guys. If you enjoyed the content, make sure you drop a like. We went a little bit deep on the Jimmy Kimmel stuff today, but it was kind of funny how some people took it and then how now that he's back. So I was happy to talk about it. And some other important stuff going on. Definitely budgets and Jim Tressel being done. I got to shake Jim Tressel's hand when I graduated. He was president of YSU then, but I don't think he should really be governor either. That's just my opinion, and I'm happy that he got out, but I'm sad that Vivek's probably going to win. I think Amy Acton's really good for governorship, but I don't think she'll win because of the people of Ohio. I think, a doctor that does a lot knows a lot about the environment would be very helpful as government as one of the worst environmental states ever. I mean, the whole reason why we have the EPA is because of Ohio. The whole federal EPA started because of the state of Ohio. And the Cuyahoga River burning in, I think it was 1962. To look it up. So it's crazy that, they'll pick someone that a lot of times hurts, communities, hurts the state, wherever they're at. Bio and tech, you know what I mean? They're not really the best for the environment. So it's very interesting to me. I think Amy would be great for us, but like I said, people won't vote for her. I think it would be interesting maybe if the economy gets really bad, it would be interesting to see if we do get a lot of people switching, and then maybe Amy could win.
Yeah.
But I really don't know.
It's gonna be crazy, It's of course, running statewide in Ohio is very difficult, but we're also dealing with unprecedented times here.
Yeah.
National wins may blow our way.
Yep. Kind of like how it was before in the Obama era. So I would love that. Bring the steel belt back or whatever they called it. Iron Curtain. Yuck yuck. That's it for me, guys. We'll be back for the Northeast Ohio Sports Show on Thursday. Got some NASCAR going and F1 going last weekend. Some good races. I'm pretty sure F1's off this weekend, so that sucks. Once again, I'll be on at 8:30. We'll be back here next week at 8:30. Look on our Facebook and make sure you drop a like, follow, turn on notifications. It really helps us out. That's it for me, Liam. Really appreciate you guys stopping by with us tonight. Good night, Youngstown on my end.
Have a good night, everybody.
Peace, guys.